Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Intrepid Investor Podcast. My name is Vanessa Dallas, buyer's agent, engineer, and property investor. And I am here today to talk about if it is still worth investing in property. This is a bit of a hot topic right now because a lot of people are seeing that the changes from the budget may affect property investing, and I'm here to tell you that you need to just tune that out. Stop listening to all the media scares about property investing and start doing the things that you need to do to create real wealth, to sustain you and to put you in a position where you can retire early or retire with an abundance, help your children, help your friends, help your family. And you can't do that on your 9-to-5 alone. In this episode, I am speaking specifically to my 9-to-5ers out there. You work your whole life, climbing the corporate ladder, and I'm not saying that's a bad thing. It's a great thing, especially if it's something you're passionate about. But the problem is that you're waiting for someone to give you a pay rise when you could be giving yourself a pay rise with investing. And it doesn't have to be property. It can be shares, it can be bonds, it can be whatever it is that, your financial advisor advises you. It needs to be an investment outside of your 9-to-5 income. And so I'm actually going to run some numbers because I am the numbers queen. We always talk numbers and facts on this podcast, and that is my engineering mindset mind, where I always like to think of things as black and white. It is clear, it either works or it doesn't. And investing in property, which is what I'm going to focus on in terms of an investment, and shares today, I'm doing both, is going to get you in a far better position for your retirement than not. So I am going to have two scenarios. Scenario number one, we have a person. They're in their early 30s. They're currently just gotten married, planning to have a family. They're working their 9-to-5, and they just want a beautiful life where they can travel and every couple of years raise their family, live in a nice house, that whole Australian dream, as we call it. So they're on a salary of, say, $120,000 a year, give or take. That's where they started at when they first started their 9-to-5 job. So they're probably about 6-7 years into their profession right now. So we're getting a bit more. We'll say the average growth of their income is 5% per year, following the CPI. And they decided to buy a $1 million home because they want to live in their dream home. Their dream home is $1 million. Now, obviously, that's a bit low in some states in terms of a dream home, but let's just go with me, okay? Dream home, $1 million. So with a salary of $120,000 or thereabouts, that's actually quite low. They're going into it with their partner. Their partner's in a similar situation. Okay. This person has bought their owner-occ, their primary place of residence, the home that they're going to live in. And if anyone's read Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that's actually one of the books that inspired me to really get into property investing, by the way. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you read it, by Robert Kiyosaki. His main philosophy in that book, the thing that stuck with me the most, was your property, your home, your primary place of residence, your owner-occupied property is not an asset. It is in fact a liability. An asset is something that grows and gives you wealth, financial wealth. A liability is something that actually takes away from your financial wealth. And the reason that an investment property gives you financial wealth and a home, an owner-occupied property, does not, is because an investment property is constantly growing, and when you sell it, you get the returns. And it doesn't have to go into anything else. You can keep that. But your owner-occupied property, yes, it's going to grow. But the issue is, after you sell it, you're most likely going to want to upgrade, which means you want to move more inland. So yeah, it's made money. But the thing is, it's actually going towards that money that you've made is going towards the next property. So you're not actually really helping yourself out with your owner-occupied property. It's just debt recycling. You get some debt, you pay it off, you get enough for the next property, you upgrade, and you keep going until you get more into the main suburbs that you want to live in, or get the bigger house, or whatever it is. Unless you are downsizing, unless you are renovating the property to get even extra value, but you're not spending that total capacity on your next property, then your property is a liability if you buy it for yourself. So that's what we're saying here. This person's property is a liability. At the moment, they have zero assets. They just rely on their 9-to-5 income. Now in Australia, we've obviously abolished the pension now. I don't think it exists anymore. And it's all about your super. So your superannuation. Based on this person in their 30s, working until they are 65, their super balance at 65 will be $3.9 million, which is great, right? So from 65 until, what's the average life expectancy? 85, 90. They have $4 million to spend. And that's from one person. So if you've got a couple, that could be another 4 million. So, pretty good outcome at the end of the day. That obviously doesn't include any taxes that are put onto your super. That makes, depends on how you invest in your super. Is it high risk? Is it low risk? This is very high level, so don't take the numbers as gospel. Obviously, if you want to find out about your own situation, speak to your accountant and financial advisor. With all the numbers I give you today, make sure that you do your numbers for yourself. But this is something that I just worked out, and it seems to be cool. You've got $3.9 million in super. Your total cash savings, if you are saving every year, because usually these people that don't invest, it's because they believe cash is king. They believe they will need to hold on to their wealth, onto their financial wealth. So they usually save. So about that age, you've probably saved about $500,000. Okay, great. You're in a position where you have $4.5 million. Amazing. So now if we look into someone who saves with a property, someone who invests in property. They don't buy their owner-occupied property straight up the bat. The first thing they do is purchase an investment property. And whilst they've purchased an investment property, they have options. They could be renting, or they could be living at home or a friend's house or whatever it is. Obviously, this is a bit hard in today's day and age. Rents in some areas are really expensive, so it doesn't necessarily apply to everyone, but majority of the times your rent is actually going to be a lot less than it is to buy your home, because your rent is, you are going to be able to buy something in an area that you want quicker. You are going to be able to live in an area that you want a lot quicker with the money that you put towards your rent versus the money they put you towards your home, your mortgage. Now, a lot of people are back in the mindset of back in the day, rent is dead money, and I am so against that. Your payments, your repayments on your house, as I said, it's a liability. Your repayments on rent, your payments on rent are a liability. They fall under the same column. They are a liability. They are not an asset. So whether you are paying off your house, in which at the end of the day you are selling to then upgrade to another property anyway, so technically, like I said, you're debt recycling, you're not actually making any money and holding on to that money, then what is the difference between buying and paying off your mortgage versus renting and just spending the money? If you are trying to get your repayments so low that when you sell, you will go back into another debt as a homeowner and then have that cash on hand, okay, maybe you made some money like that, but guaranteed 99% of the times, Homeowners don't actually do that. You always want to upgrade, and then you start the whole cycle again. So, given that, this second person actually purchases a property for $800,000, so below their maximum borrowing capacity. They have all the same credentials as the first one, same starting salary, same age, same 9 to 5, same super contributions. But they have bought one investment property in the first year of this study, so say when they're 30. And then because their property is doing so well, they buy a second one. Okay, we're going to cap it at 2. The average Australian does not have more than 2 investment properties, so I'm going to cut it there. Let's assume these properties just rise in value. They grow at the average rate. The average rate in Australia is 6% per year. Let's also assume these people, they are avid investors. So yes, they're investing in property, but they're also investing in shares. And they're putting $1,000 a month of their salary into shares instead of just putting it aside in the bank, instead of just holding it for cash. They are putting it into the share market, which has an average of 10% growth per year. Now, buying those 2 investment properties instead of buying their own home has actually created a portfolio for them. And you might think, oh, it's 2 properties. What does that get you? I hear people having like 10, 20 properties. Those people that have that many properties have different goals. Personally, I think it's a bit of an ego thing sometimes. You just want to, it's a game. It becomes a game after a while. It's like, oh, how many more can I get? How much more money can I make? It's not necessarily, I'm going to need this for my retirement. No one needs 10 properties for their retirement. But it's become a bit of a game, okay? So what do you need for your retirement? I honestly think 2 properties is enough. If you want to retire earlier, there's other strategies you need to look at. If you want to create another form of passive income, so where a number of properties can pay off one of the properties. So what happens is you can buy, say, 4 properties, and then the first one that you have bought has really increased. You've basically just paid it off. It's starting to pay itself off. You can then use that property, sell it, and then with the other property, and then put it towards the other properties. So then those will become positively geared. Anyway, I'm confusing you now. There's a lot of strategies, and I'm not going to go through them all with you now. But basically, this person has bought 2 investment properties, and by the time they turn 65, their property portfolio is $11 million. It's worth $11 million at 65. Now, $11 million when we're 65 is not going to be the same as $11 million today, let's be honest. And that's the same goes for that $4 million at 65 that the first person got in their super isn't going to be $4 million today. You can see how the dollar is diminishing day by day, and that's just how it is. So 4 million might just be worth 1 million. 4 million might be worth 500,000. We don't know. But these are the numbers that we have right now. So we're going to stick with those. Everything comparing apples with apples. So you have 2 properties that have made $11 million by the time you're 65. You invested $1,000 a year in shares, per month in shares. And at 65, your share portfolio is worth $4 million. Your share portfolio is worth $2.3 million. And your super is the same as the first person because we have been putting the same amount of super into that fund. So your combined wealth, though. Now, when we put all the assets together, this scenario 2, this person number 2, the investor, has now got a combined wealth of $17.5 million at the age of 65. And like I said, we don't know what the dollar's going to be worth over there. We don't know what the dollar's going to be worth in 35 years. But what we do know is that 17 million is a heck of a lot more than 3.9 million. And so they have this 17.5 million to give to their children, to pay off some properties, to travel, to enjoy life to the max for however many years they have left. One of the things that I really like to show my clients that work 9 to 5s is the fact that the pay rise of a 9 to 5 job is not worth, well, I'm not going to say it's not worth anything, but the average pay rise is 5%. And some people that work their 9 to 5s don't even get a pay rise. And I know a lot of people even get 2%. But let's say if you get 5% pay rise every year, and you started with $120,000 on your starting salary, you're getting $6,000 taxed, not untaxed, this is going to be taxed, $6,000 of extra income in 1 year. That's it. If you're waiting for your 9 to 5 to give you the money that you need for retirement, please stop, because it's not going to happen. Unless you are climbing the corporate ladder every year and you become the CEO of a big company and all of those things, amazing. Well done. I am proud of you. You are doing amazing. Obviously, your super contributions can be more. You can save more. You can spend more. But regardless of that fact, you are just the average. But regardless of that position, your pay rise is still only 5% per year. And that is not going to grow, and that will never be as much as what you would get per year on a property or in shares, because your property is 6% per year. Your shares, and it's 6% per year on a property value, by the way, on the price of the property. So if the price of the property is $800,000, it's 6% on $800,000. This is 5% on $120,000. Okay, your CEO, maybe $500,000. But it's still way less than what a property is. So, if you have that $800,000 investment property and it's growing at 6% per year, you are making $48,000 of that asset in growth per year. $48,000 per year versus $6,000 per year. Which one's better? Which one would you prefer? Why can't you have both? This is the question that baffles me. As a 9 to 5er, you are secure. You are getting secure income. Every month you get the same income. You can't be fired just for nothing. You need to have done something really, really bad, or you'll have some crazy warnings. And you will have, it's not as if you just get fired overnight and you're like, oh no, now I don't have a job to pay off my mortgage. I feel like in Australia, it's almost impossible to get fired. And I'm sorry if I'm speaking out of term here, but there's a lot you have to do for that to happen. So you're secure. You have that income. You know what your expenses are every month. Just put a little bit more extra aside towards an investment property rather than your mortgage. Look at the benefits that you get. You get $48,000 a year for putting that money into an investment property and renting, instead of putting it all towards a mortgage that isn't going to grow for your benefit. It's a liability. This great Australian dream that you're being sold is a liability, the whole thing. And it sucks to say that, because you want the government to be looking after you. You want to be able to have what your parents had, where they could just survive off one salary to help out the whole family, to support the whole family. My parents did that. My dad was the only one working for the majority of our childhood. My mum went to work when I was 10 years old. That's when she went back into the industry. She had 10 years off. And in that time, we went on a 3-month European vacay and we're traveling domestically every year. We had a home. We weren't rich, but we were well off. We had everything we wanted. And that was off one salary. But you can't have that today. So this whole Great Australian Dream, we need to refocus it. The Great Australian Dream is to retire early. The Great Australian Dream is to have more choices. The Great Australian Dream is to have an abundance of wealth, financial wealth that can help us in other aspects of our life. And I'm all for wealth of all types. Your health needs to be amazing too. You need to look out for your mindset, your community, your purpose. And hopefully your 9 to 5 is feeding a lot of that, because obviously it can give you community, it can give you purpose and mindset, as long as you are being, challenged in the right way every day, a good amount of stress, not too much. But if your 9 to 5 is giving you all of this, it's not giving you the financial wealth that you need for long-term sustained wealth. Your super is giving you the minimum of what you need. And you can be putting more money into your super, yes. I actually met up with an ex-colleague the other day, and he was telling me he's turning 60, probably has another 5 years of work in him. And he was just saying, I never invested in anything. I've got my kids, I've got my house, but never invested. So now I really need to start grinding more these last 5 years and put all I've got into super, and then it doesn't get taxed and whatever other things he was going on about in terms of strategy. But it's your super at the end of the day. It grows at what it grows at, 10%. In your 60s, it probably grows less as well, because you're not going to go for high risk. You're going to be going for a low risk. And so the lower the risk, the less the return. So you're putting all your money into this account that's not going to grow more than 10% per year of your super. And the super that's in there, okay, say you've got $3 million at that stage. Get an extra $300,000. Yeah, that's pretty good. But if you had invested earlier, you would have $11 million more. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, I don't need that money. 4 million's plenty for my retirement. Why do I need so much? You never know. You don't know what life's going to throw at you. You don't know what's going to happen in your family. You don't know how long you're going to live for. And the other thing is, you don't know even if you're going to make it to 65. So why not have an option to retire earlier than that? Leave your super as that extra bonus. Let the investments hold their weight and take you into an early retirement. Why do you have to work till 65? Why do you want to work till 65? There's so much more that you can be doing in your life. So in summary, I feel like I might have put a lot more different ideas in your head in this episode, and I'm sure not everyone's agreeing with what I'm saying, but I am huge on investing. I'm an avid investor. This is me. I have the 2 properties. I put in $1,000 a month in shares, and that is where I want to go. Because I want to have the flexibility. I want to retire early. I want to go on my travels every year. And my investments are going to help me get there. And I have a long-term plan. I'm not stopping at 2 properties. And maybe it will become a bit of a game for me. But at the end of the day, it's building my finances. And the more money you've got, the more you can help others as well. So it's not just about me at the end of the day. And it depends on what your goals are. But it doesn't have to be just about you either. So, are you going to retire with purely relying on your super, in which we don't know how the government is going to change getting that taxed? Because right now they can change the rules like that. We've seen it with the property in the federal budget last month when they had promised they weren't going to change anything. They are taxing investments differently now, but you will still be getting growth. And the growth is always going to be more than your income increase. So are you going to settle for your 5% salary growth and your savings to have $4.5 million at the age of 65? Or are you going to invest in properties and shares and live a very similar lifestyle, your spendings are pretty much the same as the scenario 1, but you end up with $17.5 million. Which one? The choice is yours. I'm always here to speak through strategies with you to help you understand more about what you can do with your money for property. And I do have a team of financial advisors and accountants. So if you do need that extra advice and you're really confused, and this episode has actually made you think, oh, I don't know, maybe I should invest in property, reach out. Reach out to me. Send me a message on Instagram at Vanessa V. Dallas. And I'd be happy to help you out on your journey and give you any advice that I can for the capacity that I can. It's never 100% financial advice. It is more about strategy on my end, and I can connect you with the right people to help you with your own finances and advice and get that real advice that's going to change your life. Don't settle for less. Stop listening to what the media says. You've got this. Keep being intrepid investors. Bye for now.